Hello, we're in Malta. We're doing two very big oils on canvas. Now, these are quite unusual. There are different dimensions. The first thing to point out is this pair, and I've gone on endlessly about the decorative value of a pair and how having two of an item is in total greater than the sum of two. The effect is multiplied. So this is a true pair. It's not two of the same image. They are a pair with different subjects and obviously go together. They're not a married pair. It's possible these were from a larger set of 8 or 12 biblical pictures. They're quite unusual in the fact that these are what's known as Capriccios, but they also have biblical content. So here you have the Nativity. You have a star, the light going down from heaven to the three wise men, Joseph, Mary and Jesus. So that is a pure nativity. You've got in the background a palm tree, which alludes to exotic, warm, sort of Holy Land type places. You have a couple of camels. Now these are not well painted camels. It's not because the painting is junk, it's because it was painted in the 18th century and there was not a lot of anatomical information about a camel, so they were making it up to a degree. We have got in this one another biblical scene. You have the infant Jesus, Joseph, Mary. I don't know what these people are doing in the background. I will say that the way they're painted looks slightly Neapolitan. They have these puffy shirts, which again I keep going on about. They're puffy shirts, and they have the highlights just jobbed on in a very simple manner. So I think that these pictures are Italian school, and I think that they're Southern Italian. Now, because I'm in Malta at the moment, and these are in Malta, and they've obviously been in Malta for a long time, they could be Maltese or Sicilian. It's very possible. I don't know for sure if they are. They're more likely to be Italian, but I think there's a fair chance that they're Maltese because they are slightly naive. They're not excruciatingly well painted. They're not extremely crisp like some of these Capriccios you do see on the market. So we have the biblical dimension combined with the Capriccios. Most Capriccios, if you look at the catalogues in London, you will see there is a flow, a supply of Capriccios, mostly on their own. Quite often they're big by the nature of the picture, but quite often they're small, quite often they're later. And you will see these ruins, and you will often see the arch, the pillar. Sometimes you'll see peasants lying around in the Capriccios. They're ruins. It's picturesque. It is sort of grand tour. I don't think that they were painting in this instance for the grand tourist, but it's very much this decrepit splendour that the grand tourists were trying to see. They were trying to see old ruins. So you have a combination of Renaissance style clouds and mountainous backdrops. That's not glacial, but it's a pretty hefty hill in the background. Big, what I call big old skies, a European tree, a classical ruin. Is it the Holy Land? Is it classical Europe? Is it Greece? Is it Italy? It's a concoction. It's a fanciful Capriccio. Now I think there is an artist called Capriccio, or one or two artists called Capriccio, but it's not the artist, it's the style of painting. These are called Capriccios, and they are, as I say, fairly numerous. Now, the shape is a decoratively pleasing shape. They're not these long, panoramic, narrow landscapes. They're very, very tall, and you've got to remember these pictures haven't got frames. So if you were to have a frame made, or you were to find another frame, these would quite happily bear a 6 or 8 inch frame. If you put a spindly frame on, it's going to detract from them. Sometimes some pictures benefit from not having a frame. Now, it would be better if they had the original frame or a good frame, but they're better off having no frame than a bad frame. So these have no frame, and they're big frames, even without a frame. sorry, the big pictures even out of frame. They have got a sort of pine strip effect. Now this has been on there for a very long time. I don't know how long. I think they look like they've been there at least into the 19th century. The hangers certainly early. Both pictures have a lot of repairs which have been done by successive owners, and the repairs are not professional repairs, they're basic repairs. This is just an ordinary piece of cloth here. It's been relined by somebody. I think they've relined it perhaps and then attached this on the outside. Sometimes you see these bits of pine added when they put them in picture frames so that the visible part of the canvas is stretched so the overlap on the frame doesn't sort of make the picture smaller. They have some looseness. It is a major problem if your canvas is loose because you get a sag. Now these are just visibly not sagging. If they were more loose, they would become bellied and there would be a problem. Now I don't propose that these are relined, because to reline it, so you have to lay them on a table, take the strip off the side, pull out all the nails, flatten it out, perhaps put a new lining over the back, draw it tight, blah blah blah. It's expense. You're going to damage it when you do it. And if you were to reline it, you're going to expose the fact there is current retouching, existing retouching, that's retouched. Along the edges there are large areas that have been repainted, which have been done reasonably well. It's not a professional job, it's an amateur job. It might have been done by the person who owns a house, it might have been done by a local antiques dealer. But I think those repairs are of some age. As I say, I believe they would be Victorian before. So do they need relining? Do they need restoration? You could have them done and you would get fantastic colours. But what you're buying here are two visibly old pictures. And if you decide to have them done, it's a matter of taste. I think if they're left alone, you'll get away with it. I think if you have new frames or have a restored frame, or you buy a frame that is cut down and you need to restore it to hide the edges, I think if you have a shiny new frame, they will in contrast look tatty and you might want to do it. You could just varnish them as they are, you could just oil them as they are, and that will give them a wet look which will bring the colours forwards and make them look slightly less dull. So you have options with these pictures. My advice to people is to not spend the money on the restoration. My advice is to people to buy more pictures. Would you rather have 2 pictures restored or 4 pictures which can be restored? That's the sort of equation you've got to work out. So back to the Capriccios. The Capriccios, hill, land, perspective, architectural features. You'll see a lot of these pictures, as I say, and they have a very, very similar layout. In fact, I think I'm not sure it's on the website, but if you look up the word Capriccio, you will find nearly the same scenes painted with varying degrees of exactitude. Okay, this one, look at the back of this one. This is the retouching I was talking about. It's fairly basic, but you can only see it when you get really up close to it. Lots of repairs. In fact, that fabric there is the same as this fabric which has been used to strengthen or reline it. I think the fabric has been used along the edge only. I am not sure this has been relined as in a separate cover over the whole thing. I think the border has been strengthened only. They're still quite tough. They're stable, but they're not tight. But as I say, they're not visibly saggy. And when they're on the wall, stationary, they're going to be okay. They have these very nice hooks on, which are old hooks. And that decoratively is quite a nice thing. And these have a very unfinished, raw, parched, bleachy effect, these pine sides, and they obviously look, original is not the right word, but they have antiquity to them. And the overall effect is of antiquity and interest. Okay, I don't really think there's a lot else I can say. The limitations are the naive camels, the limitations are the sag, the limitations are the areas of retouching, the fact it could do with relining. Another limitation is some people don't want to have religious aspects in their Capriccios. The plus size, they're very inexpensive. They're large. There are two. They're a pleasing visual image or pair of images. I hope I've got across the plus points there, and they are for sale, and they're in Malta. If they go abroad, the buyer has to have a range collection. If you live in Malta, we can drop them off. Thank you.